Hello, 8th grade team. This is your special education visual content specialist for grades 6 through 8 social studies. Today we're going to be looking at how we can support our students in making thinking visible through the use of explicit strategies and visual analysis. This video is aligned to the 8th grade curriculum in Passport to Social Studies. In this video, we'll be using SDI in order to engage and provide access to all learners, uphold student IEP goals aligned to expressive language and making connections, and support student development of comprehension through the use of visual organizational analysis strategies in order to make thinking visible. Upon your implementation of this strategy, your students will then be able to demonstrate synthesis of the experiences of immigrants in America and the extent of people adapting as a result of their new environment and country. A great visual analysis strategy that is embedded within the Passport to Social Studies curriculum is the SIGHT strategy. SIGHT is an acronym that stands for Scan, Identify, Guess, Hear, and Talk. Acronyms are great for SWD and L students because it minimizes the amount of memorization they actually have to do. All they have to do is just remember SIGHT and then remember that each letter stands for a different task. The SIGHT strategy is basically a translation of the concept of visual learning into a concrete pedagogical strategy. This protocol consists of scanning for important details, identifying the conflict, guessing the creator's message, hearing the voices, and talking about your observations. This strategy is one that helps students connect thinking and expressive language, or connect thinking with expressive language. The SIGHT strategy is great for 3 reasons. The first is that it supports visual engagement. We know that our students are primarily visual learners nowadays, and this really taps into that skill or that modality of learning. This strategy also reinforces accountability. Sometimes we like for students to observe an image, but then we also want to know what they're learning from that image. So this strategy helps us monitor that understanding. SIGHT reinforces observation and inference skills, as well as critical thinking. And instructors can promote student thinking with the SIGHT strategy, as well as monitor their comprehension. As far as inclusion, this method provides an entry point for all students, despite level of prior knowledge on the topic or academic gaps. So here we see the organizer that is available to you in Passport to Social Studies. It is an organizer that has the letters of the acronym on the side and then prompts the students to scan for the details, to identify what the problem is, to guess why the creator of the image, what their message was or what their intention was by creating this image, to make an inference about what the people are saying in the image, and to then talk or write about all their observations at the end. I like to differentiate organizers a little more in order to make them more visual, especially if I'm teaching remote. So I usually break it down like this. So I center the image that we are observing in the middle, and then I have surrounded it by the questions of the SIGHT strategy. And it is color-coded, and it is also in numerical order. I also like to implement the I do, we do, you do strategy along with this, especially if I'm introducing this strategy for the first time or just as a refresher prior to looking at the actual image for the lesson. If you're using something like Pear Deck, this is a great way to make this task more interactive, is with Pear Deck. And you can add the drawing element to the slide, and the students can circle parts of an image, highlight, they can write their responses in the boxes. So it just make it way more interactive and engaging for the students. In Unit 2 of the 8th grade curriculum titled Immigration, days 9 and 10, on the topic of Nativism, assimilation, and cultural preservation, the students are tasked with looking at this image in the beginning and then diving deeper by reading a text, answering some questions, and the culminating question is this: does this cartoon seem to support the idea of assimilation or cultural preservation? Explain. And this question is basically trying to tap into a student's prior knowledge as well as what they just learned, and making that connection between the two in order to provide a full scope of what the understanding is on immigration in the United States. Prior to looking at the actual image of the lesson, I like to model with a popular image or an image that the students have seen before in a different unit in order to show them how to use this strategy. And like I said, I do the I do, we do, you do along with the modeling. So I would answer and model the thinking with questions 1 and 2, which are lower level questions. So I would scan the image and start noticing what are some important details that I see. I would use the sentence starter in my expression. That way they are able to see the connections that I'm trying to make and how I'm using this organizer purposefully. Then I'd go on to identify what the problem is here. Again, using the sentence starters and modeling that thinking. When I get to the part where I have to start guessing what the purpose of this image is, and when I have to make an inference about what I think the people are saying in this image, then I start to bring in the students. That's the we do part. And I start to solicit answers, and this gets the students really engaged and participating, and it promotes their thinking. While the students are doing this, after the students do this, then I implement that you do part. And that comes in with the 5th question, which is talk or write about your observations. So now the students have all this prior knowledge, this background knowledge to support their analysis of the image. And now they're going to write what they think is happening in this image based on what they just observed. And this is going to let me know, A, if they understand how to use the organizer, and B, how well they're doing their visual analysis. And this is what that model of the image in days 9 and 10 of Unit 2 in the 8th grade curriculum might look like. After I do the modeling, then I have them either partnered up or in a breakout room where they're working together collaboratively in looking at the actual image of the lesson and following those steps that they need to follow in order to demonstrate their synthesis. And then once we've gone through the lesson, the image observations, the text that they're reading, then they'll finally be able to answer the culminating question that is asking them to make these deep connections. So the site strategy is great for learning stations, and it's great for breakout rooms. It's a great way to differentiate, especially with it being an acronym. Is less taxing on a student to have to remember each step individually, but with an acronym, it's already spelled out for you basically. It allows students to visually process information that will add to their understanding. It promotes active and purposeful engagement with the content, and it also makes thinking visual.